Hey everyone, this is a clip from a recent episode of the Men of Steel podcast where we talk about Superman and Superman adjacent topics. If you enjoy this clip, check out the podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your shows. Anyway, so let's move on to Volume 2, because Volume 1 I think is actually really good, but it is also a very straightforward, like, aliens come to Earth and Superman reveals himself. And, like, there's some really cool moments leading up to it. I like the costume a lot in it. I really like the yellow line around the S symbol. I think that's like a really cool detail to make it look more like fabric. Recently online, I saw, I think it was Eric Larson talking about, like, hey, when you picture the Superman S, do you actually picture the black line, or is that just a drawing convenience? Like, is it just red and yellow, or does it actually have like a line around it? And it's like, oh yeah, I guess it is like weird to think about on, like, in person. Like, would it have the black line? And I guess no. And here they do a really good job of having like that extra layer of that like yellow border around it. I think really like sets it apart from the chest a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like, they make the point, I think it was in the first issue or first volume, that Martha made the outfit for him.
Yeah.
Was it out of the blanket he was wrapped in? Yeah, she had to like take it apart thread by thread to feed it into the machine because it was so tough and stuff. I thought that was really cool. I really liked that idea. So
yeah, it was a good way of explaining what was always, like, not always, but like has been, you know, from the like the 50s George Reeves show, and like a lot of the versions Martha has made it oftentimes from the blankets that he came in, but to actually like stop and explain, like, okay, yeah, so she had to like completely unsew it to like reconfigure it and so forth because it was so indestructible. And that sets up plot points at the end of the volume where Tyrell's people, I guess because they're slightly further from the sun, we're less dependent on the sun, and thus we're almost invulnerable under it. But Clark's ship is completely invulnerable and is able to like just puncture right through all their shit like a speeding bullet.
I also liked, really quick before we jump on to Volume 2, I do want to say I liked that the first bad guy was not Zod.
Yes. Yeah. Although thematically he was.
Yes.
You know, like that. You know, the warrior, like a war character from your home galaxy or home solar system, because I don't think they establish if it's a different galaxy or not. And galaxies are big, guys.
Yes, they are.
Like, I just think that, like, one criticism I have with DC, even today and even in the movies I like, is that they jump straight to the main villain.
Yeah.
And I really like that this didn't, like, because, like, I know Luthor obviously is the main villain of Superman, but Zod is up there, you know what I mean? And so build to it, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's better, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, I
mean, like I said, like, thematically he occupies the same role, I mean, right down to like the broadcast kind of screen, but he had a very different personality. He was actually like kind of like snarky.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. When he first showed up, I was like, wait, is he a Zarnian? Because he, like they've got that white with like black trim kind of thing going on, and he's got the personality that would fit Lobo. Like, I realized all of the other Zarnians were like really good people and nice and whatnot, and this is like Lobo if he was raised as a military brat, I guess.
Yeah. No, I totally had the same thought. I was like, is this supposed to be this version of Lobo's like people? And like, because I know there's been like Lobo Superman struggles in the past. I'm like, that would kind of make sense, but obviously not as over the top. So
no, it's funny how like they constantly are like putting other worlds in the same solar system as Krypton. Like in the animated series, I forget what they called. I think they called them the planet Argo instead of it being Argo City for Supergirl, and then like Daxam, they moved into it for like the Supergirl series, and that, you know, Daxam's always been like related to Krypton, but like normally it's been one of them is the colony of the other somewhere, as opposed to like two separate planets that just happen to evolve to look like like about the same. And now this, like, it's just another world where it's like, yeah, also red sun, also samesies, guys. But let's move on to Volume 2, because Volume 2 is where we get Lisa, who is a really cool character.
Yes.
But also has some of the like Straczynski-isms that like I was like, because just cause. So we'll talk about that. We get Parasite, which is like, yeah, all right, he's always a good villain because like, yeah, Parasite's always a good early villain for Superman because like he's obviously deadly, and particularly he scales to whatever he's fighting.
Yeah, it's a villain Clark has to use his brain against, not his fist.
Yes.
Yeah, that's always useful. So
he's so gross. I love how gross he is. Like those radiated pus-looking teeth. I was like, I love it.
Yeah. Well, and then once he got even bigger and he started having like the the smaller teeth like, like coming out of his mouth.
Yes.
The more classic like sucker face, and then inside it was like the weird like goo bag teeth.
I obviously fell in love with her at first sight. So,
yeah. All right. Yeah. So Lisa.
So quick thing.
Yeah.
When I first saw her, I swore up and down that was Lois in the wig trying to get dirt on Clark.
I think they specifically like it was an accident. They looked so similar
Exactly.
that Lois had to have the mole under her eye, just to differentiate.
Because like
amazing.
she just shows up out of nowhere and she like starts like talking to Clark. I'm like, well, Lois like 3 frames ago was like, there's something up with this guy. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm like, that is Lois. You can't. No, it's not Lois. It's somebody completely different. Oh, okay.
Oh my god, and oh my god, and her initials are also LL, Lisa LaSalle.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like, she's a redhead, like, she's got, like, the ombre going on, but, like, I assumed it was, like, their Lana Lang character, because, like, she's mostly a redhead, and often when faces look the same for artists, like, comic book artists, like, have a habit of having samesies faces for a lot of their characters.
Now I'm just imagining Lois in a bathroom putting temporary tattoos on as part of her costume.
Yes.
Yeah, like the star tattoos on her.
Yeah, like, he'll fall for this, certainly. Like, I just love that in my head now. So,
Yeah, well, especially because in this volume, Lois is researching Clark Kent. Like, that's one of the big subplots of this all, where she's doing the digging, and we actually find out a lot about Clark because she is interviewing his like teachers and stuff to be like, who is this guy who had straight C's on purpose?
right. Like he was the honor student and then suddenly C's across the board.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's deliberate. It has to be, which I thought, yeah, it's a good way to introduce his background to us via her, which I thought was really good. So.
Yeah, but we keep like alluding to this Lisa character. So she's his roommate, who I like a lot of what's going on with it. She seems very thirsty at first.
Oh, totally.
And that,
Yes.
way
She's
too
super
thirsty.
and like this Clark actually, like, he's a handsome guy, but he is not the normal Clark Kent. Like, he's actually kind of scrawny. Like, he's not particularly tall. He might be 6 feet, which is like, yeah, sure, tall, but like not huge. And I say might be, like, I don't know if they give a height, but like a lot of people are taller than him in this series. And then he's not particularly built. Like, he's in great shape. When he's wearing tights, he looks great. But it's like how a ballet dancer, like, if he's wearing like baggy clothes, you don't really notice. And this girl is just immediately into him in a way that, like, like, I get it if you're like a 6'5", like, man of just raw muscle, like the animated series Clark Kent, for example. Like, right. You're like, yeah, everyone sees that. Like, I'm into that. Sexy Daddy Superman. Yeah.
I listened to that episode.
And I'm not surprised that she's attracted to him. Again, like, it's like she's like, let me come over. Let's go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's do all these things. Guy I've just met just now.
That's literally where she won me over. It's like,
right.
Yeah,
that part was great.
Rocky Horror like won me over.
I remember when I first moved to New York and found out like that was like a thing, and I was like, yeah.
See, I more saw her as an extreme extrovert adopting an introvert, which happens, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, she was definitely thirsty. I'm not gonna.
She also, like, the first time he's coming home and she like brings him in to have dinner like immediately and hops into like lingerie, like.
That was a bit
again,
much.
just very thirsty, very thirsty. Like again, all for her being into him makes total sense.
I had to remind myself this is the guy that gave us Sense8, and I'm like, yeah, this is okay, I guess. Like,
but I did find it really interesting how they kind of relate with each other, and like the revelation. I mean, that she's a prostitute. Like, I thought that was actually really, really cool, and to tackle that element of it all. You know, like we get a lot of empathy from this Superman for people who are oftentimes marginalized either for career or personal decisions that honestly don't have any impact on the world outside. And like, it's a lot, like, it's really nice that this Superman doesn't moralize unnecessarily.
There's a bit in the third volume about them that I think speaks well into what you're saying. I don't know if you got to this part where he's talking to Ma Kent, and I think it was Ma Kent, and she said, we're talking about something like, did you find, or like, he basically says, I found out something about her, and then Ma Kent said, did it make you think any less of her? And he goes, not at all. And I was like, that was the key moment to this relationship to me.
Yeah, because she was like, because I remember, because he was like, oh, she's got a couple of issues, and she's like, well, if she has issues, you have like a categorized like encyclopedia.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be talking at all, Clark.
Yeah,
exactly. He's like, yeah.
If she has issues, you have a veritable DC Infinite Universe.
But yeah, I love her, obviously. I mean, like,
Yeah, and I like that. Even like still, like when that part gets revealed, and you think back throughout the whole volume, and it's like, yeah, obviously she was like thirsty. She was like put on the lingerie. Which again, just funny note. I love that she puts on the lingerie. It's like, oh shit, it's gonna get spicy. How does Clark diffuse the situation? Tell the saddest cat story of all time. Nothing's gonna happen.
I want to talk about that cat story because, oh my god. So that is my favorite thing in this entire book.
Okay.
It's super sad, but I hardcore relate to that experience. Like, I have had many pets. I miss them all. We have not gotten a new one since the pandemic, and it like I yearn for another pet because I just like love that animal companionship. And like, oh my god, I like so relate to that. Like my dog is cremated, and I like look at like where we have her every time I like come upstairs because it's like right when I walk up, and like I was like I just get that moment so spectacularly.
Yeah, honestly, so little quick bit. I recently had one of my social medias just go away, not my fault. And one of the big things was because all my dog pictures were there. So reading this today was like, fuck, because I just felt like losing all my dog pictures all over again. But yeah, I really like that cat story. But it was just so funny how he's like how he diffused that situation. But what I wanted to get to was that you think back on her, and it's like, yeah, she was doing all these plays, but she was always waiting for him to make the next move. She was never like over eager, just on him. It was just like waiting to see what Clark would do to see if, because she knew he was like a nice guy, or he had that sense. But obviously Clark was just gonna go be Superman.
Right. She goes 90, and instead of going 10, he's
Yeah.
like, I have to go newspaper thing.
And she respects it, which is cool.
The whole cat story thing happens, and like right after he finishes that, he's like, "Oh, and by that way, my dad died like later that year," and she's like, tears,
Right.
like, "Oh my god."
Yeah. Oh, in terms of like brownie points right there, like he's just like throwing them out there, and you're like, oh yeah, this is a sensitive human being. Remember, if you like the clip, after you're done liking and subscribing, check out certainpov.com, where you can find more episodes of the show, as well as a ton of other great shows.